south here. They're going to be isolated in nature, but they're going to be out there, so you need to plan accordingly. Lightning is going to be the #1 risk out with some of these thunderstorms. Today, doing any hiking, beautiful Asheville, maybe up towards Johnson City. Look at the timing. Sometime after about 3 o'clock or so, continuing through the early evening. It's going to be a beautiful afternoon otherwise here. Temperature is really not that hot. We're going to be in the upper 70s, so it might have you wanting to be outside. Just know that those storms will fire up and they will have lightning with them. There's a zone that will see that from Helen, Georgia. Got to keep an eye in East Tennessee all the way through North Carolina, maybe even towards Greensboro and Charlotte. You've got that chance of thunderstorms coming on in. So for today, we'll be watching the same kind of movement that we've seen the past couple of days. See how everything's kind of sinking in, coming in from north to south, actually? That's the movement of the storms today. I know yesterday some of you maybe were thrown off when you looked at the eastern sky and thunderstorms started rolling in. Same kind of thing might happen a little more from the north today. Watch the storm track, so keep an eye on that northern sky. If it gets dark, then you might have some thunderstorms here in the making. Hickory, North Carolina, that's you, perhaps around 5 o'clock or so. Again, this kind of outlook for thunderstorms here gives you a general sense of what we're going to be looking at here. It's hard to predict exactly where a thunderstorm like this will be just a couple of hours later, but just know that there's chances all across western North Carolina and the upstate of South Carolina, maybe even some lingering into the evening. Watering your grass out there. That could be a good thing, Alex.
As well.
I can think of one circumstance where I bought the insurance. My friend didn't. I didn't need it. She did.
Oh.
And so it was.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, it's like the odds. Are you going to need it or not? It's sort of a risk.
It is a risk. You have to weigh that risk. Absolutely. So, yeah, let us know. We generally want to hear from you.
Yeah. Eager vacationers head to the Caribbean even during hurricane season.
The rewards, they're great, but you need some smart planning to reduce the risks. Here are a few tips for a successful and safe trip.
We've talked about this going through the month of May, especially the latter half here. We're just dealing with most of those general variety summertime thunderstorms that bring lightning as a risk and sometimes gusty winds and hail, as you saw, but haven't seen any big severe risks.
Yeah, we haven't. No one's complaining. No one is complaining. All right, welcome back here to America's Morning headquarters as we roll on through this early part of the week. Now, one thing we are following is just not the funnest of times here for us, Dr. Postel, as we bring you in.
All right, well, on the flip side, we do have some warmer temperatures out there, but the northeast front eventually makes its way to the south, too.
It does. It does make its way far south. Now, we'll start off looking at the northern tier in Chicago, where, average highs around 77 degrees, and we'll be above that. At least for the short term. But look what happens. Wednesday, Thursday, big drop off. And the big drop off only drops us to where we should be.
Below average. I know. You look at it, we make it blue, we make it look so big, and it's really just average. 2 degrees below is not that far below. But what's been changing our weather lately is this blocking ridge, and Greg talked about this. It has caused a lack of rain and a lot of above average temperatures here for quite some time.
And that's going to remain the case here for this early part of the week. A lot of 80s, even some 90s showing up there in parts of the Ohio Valley. But here comes the front. That's going to help to drop those temperatures a bit over the next couple of days.
Yeah, so before the front gets here, we run above average. We'll be in the 80s across Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio. Get ready. Here comes the front. And then we drop down, maybe losing about 10 degrees.
Yeah, exactly. So now we're seeing more widespread 70s. And as you mentioned, Jen, the front sags decently far south, I'd say, for this time of year.
I would agree. It's hard to get a front in June. Yes, this one makes its way through Nashville into Atlanta. So you'll see your temperatures running above average. Wednesday will be the hot day, 88 degrees. Thursday, here comes the front, but it doesn't last that long. It's a June front.
Quickly, rise right back up. Is an effective and cost-efficient way to combat any travel-related issues brought on by hurricanes. But how exactly does it work? What's covered and what isn't?
Well, joining us now, but you didn't buy travel insurance. Is it too late to buy it now?
Well, good morning, Jen. Good morning, Alex. Thanks for having me. No, it's not.
A lot of folks did not know. So you mentioned that it has to, when it's named, you're kind of out of luck at that point. But what exactly does and doesn't travel insurance cover when it comes to hurricanes?
Well, our plan
scenarios that might trigger hurricane-related travel insurance covered. Let's say a hurricane threatens but doesn't hit, but you cancel because you're concerned about it coming there. Would that be a scenario that would work?
It is a scenario that would apply to many, but not all policies. Again, that's why it's...
You can buy plans that come with trip cancellation coverage for any reason, right? What exactly is that, and why is that important to have?
Think of travel insurance and cruises. Tell us more about that.
So travel insurance for cruise, obviously cruises have been in the news.
Well, Jonathan Nichols, Vice President of Underwriting at World Trip. Thanks so much for joining us. You know, I know this is one of those things that we all kind of look at and we're like, man, you got to kind of weigh out all the options and whether or not you should do it.
I have to say, I do buy it quite often, actually, and I've never had to use it. Once I tried to use it, it wasn't covered. But
it's got to be interesting.
So I was like, what? There's a lot of grandmas that run? No, there's a restaurant, Grandmas, that sponsored it.
I was just picturing a bunch of grandmas. Okay, well, that makes sense. I like it.
Yeah, and if you're training, it looks like some good days for training.
That is looking nice. Warming up, though, by the end of the week. All right. Well, you know, it is World.
They were ahead of their time with all those solar panels.
Way back. Yeah, 2004. That's a long time ago. Look at this. Looks like we're going to keep things a little gray early week with some showers on Tuesday, but the rest of the week breaking out with some sun and temps in the 60s.
All right, looks good. Good city picks for today. Today on the show for our don't usually get, which is for your air travel.
Right, and we were talking about this, right? Yeah. They tend to work with credits to your.
Take the credit to your account.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's probably one I would not purchase.
Good.
Yeah.
I would think twice about it anyway.
Yes,
yeah.
Absolutely. But yeah, insurance is just one of those hard things because you kind of have to weigh and balance out the risk.
It's like what will make you feel better, basically.
Right, exactly.
You got to watch out for those storms later on today in Asheville. A few clouds right now, and those are not the ones I'm worried about. It's the ones that break when the sun breaks through and we see them building up here with a little more vertical development. That happens this afternoon. Latest forecast may be pushing it a little bit later here, perhaps after about 4 or 5 o'clock or so, giving us the risk of thunderstorms. But it's going to be isolated in nature, so it doesn't mean everyone gets it. The zone to watch for storms with lightning, which might be our biggest threat out here. Of course, you're doing anything outside, the lightning is going to chase you in. Charlotte, Greensboro, Mount Airy, North Carolina. We go over to East Tennessee, maybe around Knoxville, Athens in Tennessee, but also watching Athens in Georgia as well for that risk of some thunderstorms. And like yesterday, it's not going to be the typical movement of storms that you think. So often we're used to them coming in from the west or coming in from the south. They're going to be dropping in from the north yet again. So take a look at this when we see that future radar. Overall, quiet start to your morning, but through the afternoon, we'll start to see a few pops out there on the radar. A couple of showers, 4, 5, 6 o'clock-ish. We see a few thunderstorms. It's not everyone, but they will be out there. And as we get through the evening, we'll see perhaps even more. This is now 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, midnight or so. Thunderstorms on the move, all coming from the north, moving towards the south. So all associated with that boundary that we have up there to the north. Now, tomorrow, we're going to keep an eye more on South Carolina, perhaps all the way down here to the coast. So around Folly Beach, Charleston, doing any kind of outdoor plans there, especially later in the day. Do be aware that there could be thunderstorms popping up. Here's a look at your timing for tomorrow afternoon, and you can see a similar situation. Some thunderstorms popping after about 3, 4 o'clock or so, definitely linked to the daytime heating, and we'll see that continue even after the sun sets here. All right, another spot, Southern Plains. We can't shake this kind of pattern either.
Yeah, we certainly are good. By the afternoon, those storms, they do pop up, and they could be severe.
It is kind of a weird pattern. Just these little pockets everywhere of some thunderstorms, but no big severe outbreak, which is good. Well, normally when you think
that's one way to get around it, right? Is just to, exactly. There are ways to kind of work around having to buy that insurance. I always wish that you could get at least a percentage back if you didn't use it. That would be the ideal situation. That'll never happen, but that would be ideal.
Vacationers head to the Caribbean even during hurricane season.
That's right. The rewards, they're great, but you need some smart planning to reduce the risks. Here are a few tips for a successful and safe trip.
Maybe some gusty winds, perhaps some small hail, but no big areas of severe risk.
No real concentrated zone, right? And no one's going to complain about not having this big, massive system causing a severe weather outbreak. That is for sure. Thanks so much for choosing America's Morning Headquarters here with you on this Monday.
Yeah, I hope you all had a good weekend, and we're looking ahead to this upcoming week here. Will the pattern like we have hold? Well, let's talk in with Dr. Greg Postel. It's like, be careful what you wish for, right? Since for some, this has been a little too cool to start off the summer.
Well, how about Chicago? We'll start off with you for this week. Advertised about 77 degrees. We'll be above that here for our Monday, but then we'll see a bit of a drop in the numbers. But the drop happens, and it only really drops us down to where we should be.
Right. Average is 77 Chicago. We dropped to 76 on Wednesday and 75 on Thursday. So still very comfortable out there, actually. So if you're under the ridge, you're not going to see a lot of changing weather. It's on these edges of the ridge is where we see all the change happen.
Absolutely. We'll work our way through the early week with temperatures, for the most part, 80s there on the Great Lakes, 70s across the interior Northeast. But above average is the name of the game. We're forced to go out around the Great Lakes and into the Midwest. Kind of close to average, if not slightly below in the east. But here's our cold front. That's going to sag south, and drier, cooler air, that's on the way.
Yeah, so it knocks down your temperatures maybe by about 10 degrees or so. Cincinnati, Chicago, Indianapolis, you'll feel it across much of Ohio, actually, including around Cleveland. We'll have a big drop in temperatures, too.
Now, oftentimes you get these fronts to kind of stall out there in the Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic. Not this week. This one actually drops pretty far south.
Yeah, so you'll get some relief from the warmer temperatures. You'll also get a break from some of the humidity as well, which will creep back up a little bit. You'll see that midweek here. Tuesday, Wednesday, we're in the upper 80s. Not quite 90, but we're up there with higher dew points. Thursdays, obviously, the front comes in.
Yeah, you can just certainly see the difference there. But this front will also help to spark off at least the risk for some showers and storms along and ahead of it. This is Wednesday from the Carolinas back into the Midwest. Just watching the skies as the front moves on through.
We'll see more of that in the Southeast by the time we get to Thursday.
Insurance is an effective and cost-efficient way to combat any travel-related issues brought on by hurricanes. But how exactly does it work? What's covered and what isn't?
Well, joining us each, but you didn't buy travel insurance. Is it too late to buy it now?
Well, good morning, Jen. Good morning, Alex. Thanks for having me. No, it's
something that a lot of folks did not know. So you mentioned that it has to, when it's named, you're kind of out of luck at that point. But what exactly does and doesn't travel insurance cover when it comes to hurricanes?
well,
About scenarios that might trigger hurricane-related travel insurance covered. Let's say a hurricane threatens but doesn't hit, but you cancel because you're concerned about it coming there. Would that be a scenario that would work?
it is a scenario that would apply to many, but not all policies. Again, that's why
you can buy plans that come with trip cancellation coverage for any reason, right? What exactly is that, and why is that important to have?
People think of travel insurance and cruises. Tell us more about that.
So travel insurance for cruise, obviously cruises have been in the news.
Well, Jonathan Nichols, Vice President of Underwriting at World Trip, thanks so much for joining us. You know, I know this is one of those things that we all kind of look at and we're like, man, you got to kind of weigh out all the options and whether or not you should do it.
I have to say, I do buy it quite often, actually, and I've never had to use it. Once I tried to use it, it wasn't covered. But lose some of the heat that we've had up here lately, and we keep it dry, though. No chance of storms comes back until the end of the week when temperatures go back up again.
Start to climb a bit there. All right, good stuff. Diluted good stuff there. How about the forecast? Because we are going to keep it a little grayish. Some showers around here for your Tuesday as well, but drying out nicely for the end of the week and comfortable too.
Need a little more sun to use those solar panels. Our question of the day is about travel insurance.
The fact that medical insurance is something that's not necessarily covered for you when you go overseas.
Yeah, it's worth looking into. Line. Now today, Asheville, with those clouds that you see out there and the fact that we now have some sun peeking through, we're going to destabilize things and we'll get some clouds that grow a little taller in the sky. Thunderstorms are possible later this afternoon. You'll probably have the bulk of the day without any issues. But I would say after about 4 o'clock, you really need to be on guard for that potential storms with lightning. So if you're doing any kind of hiking, plan to come down the mountain before then, just with that risk of storms with lightning. We've got that chance out there here today all across the zone from North Carolina, South Carolina, even into parts of northern Georgia and into East Tennessee. And like yesterday, things are going to be moving from north to south or even from east to west. Yeah, I know that always throws everyone off. You think all of your weather is going to come from the west or maybe come up from the south here, but not the case with the pattern that we're in and the blocking that's happening in the upper levels of the atmosphere, which Greg Postel has been talking about. But here in South Carolina, watch the northern sky. We're going to see some thunderstorms popping up later this afternoon, very isolated. You saw that 4 o'clock-ish, and there's not that many storms out there, right? Even at 6 o'clock here, it's very isolated in nature. And once we get through, say 7, 8, or 9 o'clock, you'll see a few more. Again, not a guarantee that you will get some. Some of you will miss out on the rainfall. Some of you will get it. I know you need it for watering your lawns, right, in your flower beds, maybe your gardens. We'll see some of that continuing into the evening and then waning as we get through the overnight. But then tomorrow, we pick it up with a similar scenario just a little further south. And now we do bring in Kiowa Island, perhaps. Watch around Charleston. We're going to keep up an eye all the way up to Myrtle Beach with that chance of thunderstorms. And really across the state, you'll have that risk of storms with lightning as the main risk. Alex, in the plains, we've also seen some storms to use it.
Yeah.
Thousands of eager vacationers head to the Caribbean, even during hurricane season.
Now, the rewards, they're great, but you need some smart planning to reduce the risks. Here are a few tips for a successful and safe trip. Pockets here and there that things could get a little frisky, and we'll watch that as we head on through this afternoon. Thanks for staying with us here on America's Morning Headquarters, here to walk you through here this early part of the work week.
I was hoping for rain because my yard needs it so badly. And then I started grilling. And then,
well, that was it.
Maybe
that was it. Just start grilling and the rain will come.
Yes. I got the chicken done and literally pulled it off as the drops came down.
All right, let's bring in Dr. Postel because
stuck pattern. And if you've been stuck under the ridge, you've been having warm days and sunshine. And if you're on the edges, that's where everything's happening. That's Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, Chi-Town. Remember late last week, Chicago, low 90s we were dealing with for a couple of days. It's been pretty hot out there. Well, you can see there is some change on the way. You'll notice as your temperatures drop off this week back to where they kind of should be here by midweek.
Yeah, a front comes in and just sends you back to average. That's it, really. So again, that ridge, I mentioned under it, it's going to be pretty stable. What you have is what you're going to get. It might be good or might be bad, depending on your perspective. But along the edges, when you see changes in the jet stream, that allows some changes in your weather.
So what we've got is what we've got in terms of the temperatures, pretty warm here out ahead of this front, which will be on the move southbound as we work our way through this week. So out ahead of it, we got a lot of 80s in the Midwest, some 70s across the interior Northeast.
So we go below average. Northeast, of course, we've been talking about will be above average. Minnesota, Wisconsin, a lot of Michigan. And, pockets of above average air, but really quite comfortable. It's really hard to complain about what you have going on. And even hard to complain about what you're getting. It's not that cold.
Yeah, it's not like we're bringing in 30-degree temps here for us. Cooler and drier conditions. It'll be comfortable as we work our way through the afternoons here. 70s for the most part here for the midweek.
Yeah, and the front keeps on going. Surprise, surprise, in June. It's hard to get a front to go all the way into the deep south, but it will. Atlanta's that knocks you down into the 70s, and around Columbia and Raleigh and Durham as well.
All right, enjoy that little break. Is an effective and cost-efficient way to combat any travel-related issues brought on by hurricanes. But how exactly does it work? What's covered and what isn't?
Well, joining us each, but you didn't buy travel insurance. Is it too late to buy it now?
Well, good morning, Jen. Good morning, Alex. Thanks for having me. No, it's
scenarios that might trigger hurricane-related travel insurance covered. Let's say a hurricane threatens but doesn't hit, but you cancel because you're concerned about it coming there. Would that be a scenario that would work?
It is a scenario that would apply to many, but not all policies. Again, that's why
think of travel insurance and cruises. Tell us more about that.
So travel insurance for cruise, obviously cruises have been in the news.
Europe often thought to be kind of out of reach for many because of the expense, but there are ways to save.
We partnered with Citibank to bring you some helpful advice. We're going to lose some of the heat that we've had up here lately, and we keep it dry, though. No chance of storms comes back until the end of the week when temperatures go back up again.
Start to climb a bit there. All right, good stuff. Pretty good stuff there. How about the forecast? Because we are going to keep it a little grayish. Some showers around here for your Tuesday as well, but drying out nicely for the end of the week and comfortable.
Yeah, need a little more sun to use those solar panels. Our question of the day is about travel.
The fact that medical insurance is something that's not necessarily covered for you when you go overseas.
Yeah, it's worth looking into.